totally fine. And so welcome. Thank you for coming to Finding and Researching Your Paper Topic with our wonderful Assistant Director of the library, Meredith Weston Kostek. Thank you so much for taking the time to do this. This will be specifically about environmental law. So even if you attended or watched the previous session, I think this will still be super relevant to you as well. So without further ado, I will turn it over to Meredith.
Hi, I'm Meredith Kostek, and we're going to be talking about finding and researching your paper topic. And again, if you heard me on Wednesday, you're going to see a lot of apples still, but we're going to look at environmental resources and really how you can dive into what we have specifically for your environmental needs. We have more databases, more books, more specializations in this topic. And so it will be lots of fun to share that with you. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask as I go along, or you can wait until the end, or Tess will field the chat and she'll be able to help you out there and ask me questions as those go. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen and we'll get started. All right. So we are going to talk about selecting a paper topic, checking for preemption, breaking your research into two parts, the background and the focused research that you're going to do, how to keep current, how to track and manage your research, and then what to do when you get stuck. Now, these are your typical kind of timeline for your paper topic. And so you're going to select that paper topic and then you have to decide, has somebody else written it? Then how do you continue to go through your background and your research? You're going to use this research, you're going to build on this research, you'll update the research, and then you're going to cite to your research. So when you're thinking about your research, think about everything I read from the very first paper on this topic is something I might use in my final paper. So you're going to want to start tracking and knowing where this information came from. So start at the very beginning. Your first thing should be, how am I tracking all of my information? And now I'm going to move into, how am I going to search for a topic? How am I going to get more information? We have a library guide, and library guides are these collections of every, not every, but a lot of databases and texts and primary sources on specific topics. And at Boley, we have an environmental law research guide. We have an administrative law research guide. So if you were doing something on the EPA or the Department of Interior, you might look at that administrative law guide. We have one on articles for legal and non-legal research, federal legislative history. If you're looking at a bill and you want to know, well, what was this senator thinking when they were writing this bill? You can look up that information, and we have step by step how to do that. We have an international environmental law research guide. We have news research, and we have statutes research guides. And all of these will help you look at a topic and find little pieces of it to help you along the way in your research. So what does a guide look like? Let's look at the one for finding and researching your paper topic. You'll notice that there's a start here, tells you some basic information, and then goes through the different topics. Here we have choosing a topic, preemption, strategies. Do these sound familiar? These are what we're going to be talking about today. You can find all of these in our research at the Boley Law Library under research guides. Here they are alphabetically under our main research guides and then our special topics. So here is that environmental law research guide that I was talking about. What does that look like? Again, kind of your basic overview of environmental law. Then we go into secondary sources. And secondary sources are texts that give you overviews of a particular topic. What I love about this page is you can look at a general overview of environmental law, but then I can also, maybe I'm just interested in air pollution. I can go to the air tab right there and then look at all of my secondary sources specifically on air. And what you'll notice is some of these say things like Chapter 18 and 19 of Environmental Law by William H. Rogers is about the Clean Air Act. And so it helps you pinpoint just, I'm interested in air topics, helps you get there. The next thing we're going to have are federal statutes, which is really helpful. A lot of times you're kind of like, oh, it's the Clean Air Act. But then when you get down to researching it, you're like, well, what is the US code section for it? So this type of clearinghouse allows you to just say, oh, the Clean Air Act is 42 US Code 7401. Clean Water Act is 33 US Code 1251. And it goes on from there. So it immediately helps you get where you need to go for those major federal statutes. We also have your major federal agencies that have to do with environmental law, using the CFR, the EPA, National Service Center for Environmental Publications, the CEQ, all of those. And these are just easy, all in one place. I can go to the Boley Environmental Legal Research Guide and have all this information. Again, Oregon, additional resources. And then we have one specifically to databases. And these are, this is a database of all the things you can go to. And now we have a database of databases, right? And so this is an aggregate of all of the things that you can get from Boley. And Agricola and Agricultural Collection, these are both agriculturally based database. And so you can go to Agricola, type in your subject if you're interested in something about, plant sciences or entomology. And if that's what you're researching, Agricola will be a really great place to start, and it will help you find all of those resources. And you can go through and see some of the really great ones, some of the Energy Wire, Climate Wire, and Green Wire. We'll see those in your kind of daily publications and keeping up to date. We have Attorney General Actions Database, Environmental and Energy News, the Poison Papers. All of these are places where you can come to find them. So library guides, you'll hear me say it more than once. They are a fantastic first step in your research and to get to know more about your research. And one of the reasons you're doing that is because you might have an idea in your head about what you want to research, but you don't yet have the terminology. How is it spoken of in the environmental world? And then once you read these overview topics, you say, oh, it's actually called, climate change. I think we all know that one, but how they're using it is climate change, and so I can use that as my special topic. Your research timeline in general, you're going to be finding your topic. You're going to do a preemption check. Has anybody else already written about this? We're going to do a background research and then focused research. So I've already said this, but no matter what stage of your research you are doing, the resources are the same. So remember to keep track of your resources as you go. So I'm going to talk about a whole lot of resources. Tess will have all of these slides and they have a lot of links in them. So you can use them as a resource for you. But I'm going to talk about something and I might be talking about it in preemption, but you can use it for your background research or you could use it for your focused research. I'm just going to talk about them when they come up, but know that you could use what I talk about in article research anywhere in your research process. So the first one is choosing a paper topic. Now, it's possible you already have a paper and you already have a paper topic, but throughout your degree, you're going to probably write more than one topic. And so more than one topic. So let's go ahead and look and see what that looks like. So the first thing you can do is search in the catalog. And when you're looking for a big idea and you're trying to narrow it down, taking something that you're interested in, searching the catalog and seeing what's there is a really great way to do that. I'm going to go ahead and go to the Boley Law Library. And here is our homepage. This right here is our catalog. And so I can do a catalog search of absolutely everything. But if you are an online only student, you can use this e-resources only tab, and that will only bring back resources that you can get right away. So ebooks and articles that you have access to right away. We also have an articles and journals tab. I like to use this not necessarily to find articles, but I use it to see, do we have a subscription to this journal? That helps me know whether or not I'm going to find a paper or not. So I use that tab a lot. So let's say I'm looking through my catalog search and I am interested in new source review. So I can go ahead and search that. I've used quotes around it because I want that terminology all in one place. So right away, I see we have an ebook on news source review for stationary sources of air pollution. So maybe this is what I'm interested in and what I want to research. But I can look through a lot of things. You'll see we have a lot of ebooks. On the right-hand side, I can also say I only want to see ebooks. So I can look down and say, here is ebooks. And so I want to filter for ebooks and only look at ebooks, especially if I'm doing research from home or I'm an online student. The next nice thing about this is once I go into the ebook, I can select this and start reading right away. So it will load onto my computer and I can start reading news source review for stationary sources of air pollution right away, kind of get an idea of what's going on. The other things that I can see from here are really helpful. Here tells me, what this book is going to be about. But right here, you notice under the word subjects, these are Library of Congress subjects that this book is under. So it's under air pollution standards, air pollution health aspects in the United States, air pollution environmental aspects in the United States, and air pollution economic aspects in the United States. So if one of these is what I'm really interested, let's say I'm really interested in air pollution health aspects, I can select this subject topic and what it will do is it will search all of the books that we have on that specific topic. So every book that is under this topic, air pollution health aspects, is now in my search. And so that's a really great way to narrow in on what you're really interested in as far as a book. And so now I have a strategy to reduce risks of public health from air toxics. And it just helps me narrow and narrow my research. We can also browse our shelves. Let's go back to Primo. We'll take this book. It's an ebook, but I think it should show us where it is. Oh, it's not. Let's go back. We'll find a non-ebook. See, we'll go with print books. So one of the nice things about print books, and they're all requests. Ah, how fun. We'll see if it works. It should tell me right here. It is not showing it to me. There's a virtual browse for books that we have in print. And so the nice thing about even if you're an online student, we can get that book to you. So you can select it and say I'm an online only student and we will mail you the book. So if we have it, that's possible. But also you'll notice that this book is not available. What are my request options? I go ahead and sign in and it will tell me how I can get this book. Oh, well, it should work. Let's see. Well, isn't this fun? Let's try it all again, shall we? Maybe I can actually find a book that will help. So I've just typed in something very, very neutral, environmental law. So we can see where we have this journal or this book. And as we scroll down, this is what huh, this should be what the virtual browse is. Something is going on with our catalog and sometimes it's just it's a glitch in something. So I don't know what's going on right now with the catalog. I will send somebody a note as soon as we're done. But there are a couple of things you can do. So you can virtual browse, but you can also summit loan something, which means you can get something from we are part of a consortium of 39 other universities, and we can get that to you, or you can interlibrary loan something. This is all available to you as an online student. So do take advantage of it. Just when it says, how do you want it delivered? Say, I want it delivered to my home instead of picking it up at Boley or picking it up somewhere else. You can also, if you live close to a university, we can deliver it to that university or it can be delivered to that university. And then you can just go pick it up there with your student ID. So there are lots of options available to you as online students. Just not through the catalog currently. Sorry about that. We also have a lot of new books. And one of the things new books do when I help select new books, I look through them for ideas like, oh, people are really talking about this right now, or this would make a really good capstone or paper topic. And so as we do that, these new books, these are our August and September new books, you'll notice that we have one section just on environmental energy and natural resource law. So we always categorize those books. So we have they Poisoned the World, and we have Branching Out the Public History of Trees. So, again, new topics, brand new books coming out, really great places to find topics of research. The next one are blogs. So, writing a blog is still something a lot of lawyers do, and there are specific energy and environmental blogs out there. Through Lex Blog, I can select Lex Blog and then come and look at energy or environmental right here, and then look and see what's going on. So here is this energy and environmental law blog, and Ohio EPA's proposed changes to biocriteria rules could affect point source dischargers. Really interesting topic. If this is something I'm interested in, I immediately have more information. I have links. I have what Ohio is doing. Could Oregon do this? Are they currently doing this? All of those kinds of things could be questions that you could write your paper on. We have current scholarship under SSRN and Digital Commons. It takes a really long time to write a paper and then get it published. So a lot of people that are in scholarship are writing them and then posting them on SSRN and Digital Commons. Then we also have legal news. So these are our current awareness tools. And this is a link to all of our current awareness tools, and we'll talk more about them a little bit later. But these are places to subscribe to newsletters and get emails every single day that help you say, oh, this is the kind of thing I'm interested in. It lets you start to read more about it on a daily basis to get more up to speed on areas of interest for you in environmental law. So, under legal news, we have Bloomberg. You can look for news alerts, newsletters, updates. I got an email alert this week. Let's see if this works when I put it in. But this was my email and alert for Wednesday, and you'll notice that this is the interior wants to nix the conservation rule. So a Biden era that elevated environmental conservation as a way to use public lands is targeted for scrubbing by the Trump administration. So here is something I received in the email in an email on Wednesday about environmental law because I subscribed to the Bloomberg thing, a Bloomberg newsletter. And so this is just a way to keep up to speed and the type of information that you get 3 or 4 bullet points, and then you can read more about what's going on. And so again, really helpful. Find a newsletter that is important to you or that subject area is important to you, sign up for it, and then use that. E&E Daily is really kind of the best of the environmental world. Sign up for that. You'll get emails, and then you can read through. Law 360 is a Lexis product, and they do have several specific topics that you could subscribe to: access to justice, energy, environmental, public policy, transportation are the ones off the top of my head that I thought would be really good environmental. But this is what it looks like. Here you are in Law 360. You can see all the sections here at the top, and here is environmental. And here are the things that people are talking about. And here's where you would subscribe to that newsletter right there. And then you're just subscribed to the environmental. You don't have to hear about white collar or competition or bankruptcy. Just the environmental one will come to you as you sign up for that. Another thing that might be an interesting paper topic are circuit splits. That means some of the federal appellate courts say one thing and some of them say another. And maybe it will get to the Supreme Court or maybe they'll be split forever. We just don't know, but it's a way to start a paper topic on circuit splits. What you can also do is go to this United States Law Week through Bloomberg, type in circuit splits reported and environment, and then you're just going to see the ones that have to do with the environment. So here we are, and we have one from July 5th of 2024, so only a year old, and we can read about those circuit splits. consumer protection, criminal law, and here's the one on the environment. So we have Puget Soundkeeper Alliance versus Port of Tacoma. That sounds familiar. And then can private citizens bring a suit under the Clean Air Act to enforce discharge permits? The Ninth Circuit says they can, but the Second Circuit says that they can't. So here we have a circuit split. You could talk about what happened in the Ninth Circuit, what happened in the Second Circuit, why is it split? What do we think the rest of the country will be doing? And that would be kind of this hypothetical type of paper going forward and then gathering information from there. So really fun topic. Again, check out our LibGuide for more and more topics on that. The next thing we're going to talk about is preemption. So preemption is another's work that so completely and competently discusses the topic that you cannot significantly add to that discussion. So, in other words, it's the same topic, the same thesis, the same focus. Do you have to find a new topic? And the answer is no. Don't panic. It's still probably apples to oranges. You will be able to find similarities to your advantage because if you found the perfect paper, that means you have all the perfect footnotes. You have all the perfect information to move yourself forward. So you can look for a deeper analysis. You can come at it from a different point of view or an alternate approach, different parties' rights, different constitutional or statutory provisions. Maybe they're talking about 42 US Code 7401A, and you could talk about 42 7401B. Look at different jurisdictions. That's a really easy one, right? Instead of Oregon, do Washington. Instead of Washington, do California. Start on a date that the article was published and look to see how the law has changed. A lot of these articles have been published earlier, 2015. Well, a lot of law has happened between 2015 and 2025. So you can start with that paper as your base and then move on what has happened since 2015 to write your paper from there. So oftentimes I think when you find that perfect paper, it's really to your advantage. It's not a disappointment. It's a yes, I have the perfect paper. Now I can move forward with my own research. So some of our preemption checking tools. We're going to do journal searching because likely a journal is the most likely place that your topic has been covered. So we have a lot of places to look for law reviews. Westlaw and Lexis have law reviews from about the late 1990s on, but Hein Online has them from inception to the end. And so we tend to use Hein Online for that. You can find Hein Online in our A to Z list on Boley, and that's is the A to Z list. You can find it at research, A to Z databases. And I come here to H for Hein Online, and here it is right there. If you've used Hein Online, but not in the last couple of months, you'll notice that it looks a little different than it used to look. But don't panic. Law Journal Library is still under its popular databases, so you can still find it there, or you can go to the L for Law Journal Library, and it will pull up there. So I'm going to go ahead and look at that. So I am now looking at new source review and grandfather because new source review allowed for the grandfathering in of old technology. And so maybe that's what I'm interested in when I'm writing my paper. So I can go ahead and do new source review and get in quotes because I want that all in one place, and grandfather. So it will catch grandfathering, grandfather, grandfathered with just that grandfather. So here are 159 articles that have something to do with that. And so we have, the grandfather effect from far from routine, exempting existing sources from new source review under the equipment replacement provisions. And so this is talking about that. So what did I notice right away? Equipment replacement provision is going to be a word of art that I'm probably going to want to use in some of my other research because now I know that the section of new source review that was grandfathered in is equipment replacement provision. And now I can use that term of art to find even more specific papers on that. And that's how I can develop a really good search strategy for as I'm researching. The other thing that I'm looking for, so here is an article, here is it's written by. If I want to go where my most topics are, I'm going to use this turn to page to go ahead and read about it. As I scroll down, there's one article, this grandfathering and environmental regulation, the law and economics of new source review. This has been cited by 81 other articles. So this is probably pretty important in that whole idea. But it also means if I like this article, here are 81 other articles that I can sift through and kind of find even better papers. The other thing is this has been cited by one case. So that means a case even cited this article. So these are really important, but also give me more information, more places to do further research. The other thing when I'm on here, oftentimes an author writes in that same area of law. So I can look up Jonathan Remy Nash and see if they have written other articles on this topic. And so I can find more information that way. So those are all ways to check for preemption. Has my paper topic been already done? But remember, I'm also writing these all down in my research log because I might want to come back to this and read it more thoroughly once I get to the research of the background or the focused research of my paper. You can use that same idea with Westlaw and Lexis in the search terms. I just happen to like Hein Online. It's unlikely that you're going to find something on Westlaw and Lexis that isn't already on Hein Online. So it's kind of a one stop for everything. The other thing that we have is something called Legal Track. And Legal Track allows me to search by subject instead of by search terms. So I can go to my subject guide search, and maybe I'm interested in energy. And so here's energy conservation. So I can look at that, and it has lumped a bunch of articles by topic. So I'm going to search, and here are, a bunch of topics. So here are 462 articles about energy conservation, and I can go to that subdivision, and maybe I'm interested in case studies of energy conservation. And so a town conserves, I would pick something. Viroqua conserves an energy conservation program directed to the people of Viroqua, Wisconsin. And so I can then find this article. And if I can't find it, if I don't have access through here, because sometimes it's just an index and sometimes the article is there, I can look at my information. It's A Town Conserves by Steve Thomas. And I can go back to the catalog, or I could go to Google Scholar to find out more about how can I get my hands on this document. Again, that current scholarship, SSRN and Digital Commons, same type of thing. I'm going to use that new source review and grandfather, use that. But let's look at Google Scholar, because Google Scholar is actually where I spend most of my time when I'm researching, because a lot of times I want more than just the legal part of it. Maybe I want the philosophical part, or I'm looking at it from a science perspective also. And Google Scholar is going to have everything, not just law reviews. And so I can come here, type in my same new source review and grandfather, and go ahead and search. Would have lots and lots of papers. And the nice thing is, if I'm signed in as my Lewis and Clark self, which that picture indicates that I am, it will tell me what I also have available through our library. So these are all articles that we have available through the library. So I'm going to be able to read, What's Old is New, The Problem with New Source Review, and it's on Hein Online. So it's probably in that list back on Hein Online. But again, I can use Google Scholar in this way to find it. Again, if I used that subject, the legal track, and I found a paper that wasn't there, I could come to Google Scholar with that information, see if it's available through, UC Davis, something like that. And then again, key cases and statutes and regulations, you can set alerts that help you say, I'm interested in this case, but I'll set an alert just in case it gets overturned as I'm writing my paper. I want to be able to do that also. And there's a little bell. I trying to see, this talks about how to do it. So here is USV DTE Energy Company. And as it pulls up, here is that bell. So I'm setting a key site alert. So that means any case that comes up in this topic area, it will let me know about it. The other thing I can do is want to do it under negative treatment. I can set an alert under negative treatment. Right here, and that lets me know when something has been or has some negative history, negative citing reference to it. That is available both in Westlaw and in Lexis. Just happens that my link is set to a Westlaw one. All right, so the best research sources and strategies. The best thing you can do is break your research into two parts. We have a background research and then a focused research. You're going to use a lot of the same tools, but background gives you that overview. So you're thinking overview sites, literature reviews, what's been said on the topic. And then your focused research is going to get you to the point of your paper. What is your argument? What things are backing up my argument? All of those things. So in background research, you're getting a broad overview. You're going to find relevant sources for your focused research. And again, use starting with a legal research guide with your legal subject area and legal research guide gets you started on what are those broad overview subject information. Books and articles, I think this is a great place to bring in books, especially if your topic is something like climate change. There are a lot of books about climate change, giving you that overview, giving you those specific terminology so that you can then move into articles. So don't forget to track your background information, any issues. Don't forget to write down your citations and where they came from. This also helps you reevaluate your topic and narrow it if you're finding way too much, or broaden it if you're not finding anything. So this will be a good time for you to say, oh, climate change is too big. Let me just focus on, what Oregon as a state is doing for climate change compared to. So something like that as you look through your background. Again, we talked through Primo, we talked about Summit, WorldCat, and if you find it, you can interlibrary loan a book for it. And then again, here are those subject headings. So we've already talked through this, but if you have any questions about that or making sure that you get your book to your house, we can talk through that. And I can also put you with our circulation staff that really are very good at getting you all of the things that you need for researching from home. Again, articles, this is what you're using those articles for in your background research. Lexis, Westlaw, Hein Online, SSRN, Digital Commons, Google Scholar, all of those things are what you're looking for to get articles. And these really are your best legal resources for articles. All right, legal track. We've already talked about it, but we haven't yet talked about our non-legal journals. We have Academic Search Premier and JSTOR. How many of you have ever been researching and you get to an article and you're, this is great. Oh, there's a firewall. I can't get this. Well, we have access to a lot of these, and it's not necessarily through the journal. It might be through something like JSTOR. It might be through something like Gale that allows us access to the article, but not actually to the journal. So we're not reading it as the journal. We're reading it as kind of an archive of the journal. So articles for legal and non-legal research tells you how to get around paywalls and other things like that. And so we have Academic Search Premier and JSTOR, major periodicals, 12,000 periodicals, 4,700 peer-reviewed journals, and JSTOR is 1,000 historical academic journals. So these are great places to search. Again, bPress, SSRN, a Law Commons, all of those are places to look for additional articles. Then we look at our focused research. These are consultations with subject matter experts, librarians, specialized materials in your area of law, primary legal materials. And primary legal materials instead of secondary would be things like the Constitution, the US Code, state codes, regulations, state regulations, and then any administrative decisions that you might find. So those are primary legal materials. Then how to update cases, regulations, administrative decisions, and legislation. And then we have some non-legal materials that also might be helpful. So your faculty are your experts, and they really are experts here. So you are going to find a lot of helpful information. Check back regularly with your supervising professor, especially if you found an article that is fantastic, but is slightly different than your topic, and you think, well, this is really the direction I want to go. Check back with your supervising professor. They're going to be able to help you talk through what ways you can, pathways you have, and all of that kind of information. It will be really helpful to check back with them. You can also find experts in the area or field. I mean, if somebody is writing on this topic, you can send them an email and say, I'm interested in this topic and I'm currently writing on this also. Start conversations in that way. Find practicing attorneys that are practicing this field might help you find experts. I had a student that was working in the intellectual property field, and she was working for a firm, and some of them were the experts on what she was writing her paper on. And so she just set up half hour meetings with them to ask them questions. What would you look into? What other paths are there? This is where I am so far. And it really helped with her paper to make it solid, to have those, industry experts and all of that. Librarians, you can make an appointment with us. There are 4 law librarians here. This make an appointment goes to our appointment setter, and then you can have no preference and pick a time and date, or you can pick a specific person and then see when times are available for that person. If none of these times work for you, if you're working during the day and you only have evening times, send us an email at lawlib@lclark.edu, and we'll be happy to find another time to meet with you. What do you get out of a librarian appointment? If you tell us what your topic is and some of the research you've done or where you're looking, we will start to pull resources for you. And we will talk through some of the best resources for that specific topic. Instead of just environmental law, we can get really into the nitty gritty for you for that topic. And then again, those research guides, I do love research guides. They really are quite helpful in finding things. Finding the leading treatise and other singularly themed book will be very helpful. And so treatises are just, it's a secondary source, and this is our environmental treatise. These are all the environmental treatises. I would highly recommend them. You have access to all of them. This means it's on Bloomberg. This means it's on Westlaw. There should be an L somewhere. This means it's on Lexis. So those are all available online to you as you're reading. And then a lot of them also have online equivalents. Specialized databases. So we have the Environmental Law Reporter, but that is not all we have in our specialized databases. So I want to show you the kind of quick way to find all of our environmental databases. So here I am again at the Boley website. I'm going to go to Research A to Z databases. So we have about 210 databases. But I can use the filter right here to look just at environmental law. So we have 26 databases that are just environmental law. So again, these are kind of the list that we looked at earlier, but it is all 26 of them. So we have Agricola and Agricultural Collection. Here are our E&E dailies. We have the Elgar Encyclopedia of Environmental Law, which is a fantastic treatise on, just kind of a comprehensive, let's see, landmark reference work. So there we go. But we also have the Environmental Law Reporter. The ELR is a law and news analysis, and it gives you the update, laws and regulations. This is a clearinghouse of all things environmental. So I can go here to Environmental Law Reporter and use my same search terms to find out if something is available, what all is being researched, what tools I'm using, what are the newest cases, what all is going on, what's going on in air, all of that. So really great resources that we have. Use your databases to focus in on those very specific topics. And then again, research guides. And then we have guides on case research, statutes and legislation research, regulations, agency reports and documents, and how to do legislative history. These are step-by-step guides that will help you research those topics. And so I highly recommend, if you are struggling with, I'm not sure what to do with this statute. I don't know what it does. I don't know how it was created. I want to look at legislative history. All of these things can help you do a step-by-step guide. The one thing that I find particularly hard to find in agency websites, and it's because every agency on the federal level, every agency website is different. So they didn't all get one IT group to create all of the websites. Everybody got their own, which is great, but it makes it very difficult to find things. And so I use a site limiter on my research when I'm using Google or your favorite search engine. So I would just go here, and my site limiter is site epa.gov. So that means I only want you to search epa.gov. So you can do that for any website. So if you ever are on a website and you're like, I have no idea how to search this, just copy the URL, put site colon URL, and then what you're looking for, and it will pop up. So here is guidance, which guidance documents are white papers or guidance or Federal Register documents that talk about news source review. And sometimes agencies do a little bit of what I would call regulating through their guidance documents. And so you're going to find a lot of information in guidance documents. And so it is always helpful to find what agency you're dealing with and then check and see what are they saying about your topic. And so here again are news source guidance, news source review guidance and policy documents. So this is an index to it and immediately lets me know what all's there, how to find it, all of that. And so I can go to this TSMC report and just read it right there. So it's always a very helpful way to look through things. One of the things that we have found with some of the government websites, especially recently, is that you might get some 404 or 404 can't find that, all of that. We have something called the Internet Archive, and I would love to say that it's working, but it's working about as well as our catalog. So I tried it this morning and I was like, why is it not working? Let's see how we do. So the Internet Archive is a thing that has archived for about the last 10 to 15 years, a lot of first government websites and then also other websites as people find them. So this is how you get there. It is not working right now. It's been about 6 hours, so I don't know what's going on with the Internet Archive right now, but it's called the Wayback Machine. I put my URL, my broken URL or the thing that I can't find from it, and then what it will do is it will tell me, on this year, on this day, we grabbed that paper or that page, and then I can look at it, what it looked like then. And courts have determined that the Internet Archive is an okay archive, and you can use it in courts. You could use it in briefs. So you can definitely use it in papers if you cannot find it anymore online. Sorry, it's not working today. I don't know what's going on with them. I hope everything is okay for them. And then don't forget, update your cases, regulations, administrative decisions, and legislation. We saw how to put a little alert on it as you're researching, but also as you are writing down your research log, say, I checked it on this date. And then you know, oh, I only have to check it, I checked it yesterday, I'm good, all of those kinds of things. Non-legal materials. So we have statistics. That's a big one. A lot of times it's hard to find statistics. So we have a guide to statistics. We have research guides, the Boley website, Primo, those non-legal databases. Google Scholar, again, goes beyond legal materials. And then again, that Internet Archive and Wayback Machine. And then how do we keep current? We've talked a lot about this, about setting up alarms on Bloomberg, Lexis, and Westlaw. Sign up for those newsletters in the legal news and legal blogs. Keysight and Shepard's citators, consulting those preprints. One of my favorite things is the federalregister.gov has an agency newsletter. So everything that is published in the Federal Register for a specific agency, you can have that sent to your email box. And so I go to the Federal Register, I can go to browse in agencies, and that gets me to this page right here. And so if I'm interested in EPA, so here is the Environmental Protection Agency. I can look at everything they've done, but I can also subscribe right here. And it allows me to subscribe to every notice, every proposed rule, and every final rule that's published in the Federal Register by the EPA. Excuse me. I can also search just the agency. So I could search for news source review. And you'll see there are a lot of topics on that, but it allows me to then see only rules. I can see this is a proposed rule on news source review. If it has an N, then it's notice. And then I can also go in here. So here's my news source review. Maybe I just want to see notices on that and then search for it. So it allows me to search specifically within the Federal Register for that. Administrative law is one of those things. I happen to love administrative law. I teach administrative law, legal research. I really do love administrative law. One of the things I like about it is the public process, and the Federal Register is a big part of that public process. Everything has to be out there, and in the proposed rule and final rule stages, it is the agency asking for comments on what they're doing in their rule. And then in the final rule, it is the agency's response to all of the comments that they've received. So if you've written a comment, they have to respond to that comment in some significant way that says, we received your comment and this is how we were responding to it, so that you can go back to that Federal Register notice as you're looking through your regulations and say, did the agency think about this when they were writing the rule, so that you have an understanding of what the agency was thinking at the time the rule was passed? So really a lot of great information in the Federal Register. And if you were doing something that's regulatory in your paper, I highly recommend going back to that first. You'll look at the regulation and then you'll see a credit at the bottom. Going back to that very first one, that very first Federal Register, you're going to get an idea of what the agency was thinking as they were doing it, what they were depending on from statutorily, where their statutory authority comes from. All of that information will be in that Federal Register. So tracking and managing your research. So track as you go. Keeping track of your research as you go will help you organize. Think of your paper structurally and minimize the amount of time you spend backtracking through your good resources. I can tell you from past experience that if I have read a paper, I will keep finding that paper. And if I don't do something to say, Meredith, you have read this paper before, then I will keep reading it over and over again. And that's time wasted that you don't have as you are studying for all of your other classes. So track as you go, make sure you understand where it's going. Um, Power Notes is one of the ways that you can keep track of things online. If you want later, I highly recommend watching the demonstration. It takes you through how Power Notes works. Power Notes is a system that allows you to read an article, highlight a section of that article, and then it will keep track of it. And then you can put it in outline form and it keeps track of all of your research. It is a browser extension so that it is on or off, depending on if you toggle it on or off, as you're researching. So anytime you highlight it will say, hey, which paper does this go to and where should you put it? And you can set up your, major subject areas, put it in, and then as you're getting ready to write your paper, you can move your different resources around. The other nice things are you can download an Excel spreadsheet of and an outline of your whole information. So if your professor is asking for an outline, it is kind of pre-made with that Power Notes. So I highly recommend it. It is something that the library subscribes to. So just using your @lclark.edu email to sign up, you can immediately have access to use it for as many papers as you want. If you don't go through the school, you only get one free one. So I highly recommend going through the school and doing that. If you don't have a system that works and you think this sounds fantastic, highly recommend the demo. The quick steps also get you started on how to get all of that started. Bloomberg, Lexis, and Westlaw all have folder systems, but they are siloed folder systems. So only for Lexis, only for Westlaw. So if you're doing all your research on Lexis, it's a great tool. But if you're going to be skipping around to a bunch of resources, I would recommend stepping out to something like Power Notes or Evernote, OneNote, or Juris M. But there's also old school templates. I use Google Sheets for most of my papers because I like to create my own sections on what am I collecting for this? So what questions am I asking? And so I like to create that myself, but I do always try to hyperlink to whatever resource it is so that I can immediately find it again as I go through those resources. The other thing I do, this is just me, but I like to color code. So I color code my examples. And so each topic will be a different color, and then I'll just throw things in. So it helps me immediately start to build that outline. The best management tool is the one you'll use consistently. So, if it's printing out all your papers and making index cards and you use that consistently, then that is the perfect system. If it is Power Notes, that's your perfect system as long as you're using it consistently, because the main thing is you want to not have to spend a lot of time reorganizing your stuff over and over again as you go through your large papers. So what do you do if you're stuck? Talk to a librarian. We love to talk. We are waiting for you. So make an appointment, send a chat, send an email to LawLib. We are happy to help you. Talk to your professor, clarify those concepts. Brainstorm different terms or paths. Look through your articles. Am I using the same terminology that they're using? Am I using the same terminology from a statute or a regulation? A lot of times that's where we get our best language. Find a good research guide. Take a break. Get outside. You might not be in Portland, but I bet it's still beautiful where you are. Take a break. Find a beautiful walk to go on. Be kind to yourself. It's normal to get angry, sad, or crushed, but you don't have to be apples. You can be apple cider if you get crushed and have a good outcome anyway. So, happens to everybody. Uh, all right, we are at the end, and you can please feel free to ask questions, and I'm happy to answer those for you. And know that I realize this is a lot of stuff all just thrown at you. And Finley got to hear it twice. So by that second time, maybe you got extra questions, but really kind of look through the stuff. And if you find you have a question in a week, send me an email and I'm always happy to answer that.
Thank you so much, Meredith. This was
You're
so
welcome.
informative. Does anybody have any questions for Meredith at all? I didn't see any come into the
I,
chat.
I don't really
Perfect.
have questions, but I wanted to thank Meredith. Yeah, attending the second time helped
Did
and
it?
really focus on the environmental law as well as like I could catch on points that you mentioned the first time. It's very
Perfect.
helpful for me because I was getting overwhelmed thinking there's so many resources and I'm underutilizing them. So this is very helpful. Thank you
Good.
very much.
I'm glad. I'm glad.
Lisa asked if the video will be available. It will be. So I will have the recording and I'll send out the PDF of the slides with clickable links as well. Within the next week, I'll be sending that out to the student, to y'all. So yes, it'll definitely be available. Good to watch multiple times. Pause and
Or
repeat.
I always say I think you can listen to me at about 1.5 speed, but after that it gets way too fast. So I'm about a 1.5 speed talker.
I love that. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it, Meredith. And if anybody, I'm going to stop the recording now.